Hey there all you quirky Nintendo fans, I'm Brad Tendo and today we're gonna rank every single track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch. What fun! Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. At number 96, we have 3DS Rainbow Road. I think we can all agree that this one sucks balls. You can tell it makes me angry because my avatar is crossing its arms and frowning. This track is fundamentally... And at number 1, we have the one, the only Moo Moo Meadows. Could it be anything else? God damn it, the TV broke again!
Brad, that's like the 4th broken TV today. Where are you getting these?
Well, do they make waterproof TVs? Mario Kart, the unkillable franchise. It is one of the most best-selling game series out there, with approximately 178.19 million copies sold for each game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe itself is one of the best-selling games of all time at about 61.97 million copies. With the series so expansive, it's bound to have quite the sizable fanbase, and Mario Kart has spawned quite the following over the years.
Surely the fanbase is a little more chill considering that Mario Kart is a fairly casual series, unlike Smash Bros. With the 100th argument about Cord and Fire Emblem. Let's see here.
Shut up! You only say Mushroom Bridge isn't getting into the booster course best because you hate it! I love the track ever since I was a little wee baby! Fuck you! I'm toxic, you Mr. Shy Guy Hater.
Oh. What the hell is this? I don't remember the fanbase being this toxic. At least not as toxic as when you say something like, Mario Kart DS is better than Wii. Totally not biased, but like, even then, I don't think it was that bad. Was it?
Well, yes and no. While there has been some pretty bad Mario Kart discourse in the past, it hasn't been nearly as prominent till today. It's sort of like different phases in the community. I like to divide these into 3 different eras of Mario Kart. The pre-Boost Course Pass era, the mid-Boost Course Pass era, and the post-Booster Course Pass era.
Wow, there sure are a lot of booster passing. It's almost like the entire DLC contributed to the state that we were in. But it might be confusing to some of you. How can that be? I mean, sure, the Booster Course Pass has issues, but it still has 96 courses and 7 additional characters. Also Peachette, but... So that's a good thing, right?
You have no idea what went down.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into the community of Mario Kart and its, history throughout the recent years. Now before we get into this, I just want to clarify that we aren't making this video with the intention of just calling every single one of these individuals bad people. This video is mostly just to address some of the controversies within the conversation around the games, but mostly surrounding Mario Kart 8. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. Let's start with what I consider to be the roots of the discourse. The beginning of the end.
To start this section off, it's important to note that by the time we were introduced to Mario Kart, the internet was beginning to be a lot more accessible than it had back then, which I suppose wasn't much considering the games at the time went from Super to Double Dash, or Super Circuit in my case, but you know what I mean. In terms of the community at the time, Mario Kart has always had more of a casual fanbase, unlike something like Super Smash Bros, where despite Mr. Sakurai's wishes, was practically born to have a super competitive audience. Comparatively, Mario Kart has always leaned into multiplayer fun since its initial inception and release back in 1992, which got elevated more by its next installment, Mario Kart 64. Of course, since I wasn't born then, I can't exactly imagine what the community was like, if it even happened at all. But where things get more interesting is in the 2000s, more specifically the release of Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart Wii. Although, given that I'm more of a DS guy myself, I figured it's best for Mr. the Fish to explain Mario Kart Wii better.
So Mario Kart DS, despite selling well, didn't have that much to write home about in terms of its fanbase. Mario Kart Wii, however, is where shit gets real. So Mario Kart Wii was the Mario Kart for casual audiences. Much like the console it's on, it primarily features motion controls, even though a lot of us probably just stuck with the Wiimote nunchuck. I think I'm the only person I know that still plays Mario Kart Wii with the sideways Wiimote.
I mean, I used to, but I don't like motion all that much, so nunchuck all the way. At least it's not that.
Anyways, the game had basically everything set to make it a fun, casual Mario Kart game. It was everything but. This game had an absolute die-hard fan base. But why is that, one might ask? So this was the Mario Kart where online play was at its prime. Mario Kart DS also had online play, but that game barely had any tracks that you could play online for some reason. In Mario Kart Wii, you get the full selection. Not to mention, Mario Kart Wii had probably the best online of any Wii game. Anything else was a laggy mess. Now onto the non-online stuff for a bit, Mario Kart's intended purpose. This game had arguably the most consistently good track selection in the series. Now yes, the retro tracks aren't winning any awards, but the nitro track selection is loaded with fan favorites, such as Coconut Mall, Maple Treeway, Koopa Cape, so on and so forth. Mario Kart DS had fan favorites too, but I'm sure we can all agree that the game was very hit or miss in terms of tracks. Yeah, it brought Waluigi Pinball, but what else? Fucking Yoshi Falls?
Don't forget that Mario Kart Wii is also pretty well varied in its character roster. While a good chunk of it came from Mario Kart Double Dash, a game that has a mostly good selection as is, this game did introduce some pretty cool additions, such as Rosalina, Dry Bowser, Baby Daisy. Wait a second, Baby Daisy?
My favorite.
I mean, Baby Peach at least existed before. I better not see this blunder again, Nintendo. But what most people remember this roster for is a certain primate that, although cool, kinda marks a bit of an issue with Mario Kart Wii, especially if you're looking at the competitive scene at hand. I'm referring, of course, to Cranky Kong.
So going back online for a sec, Funky Kong was infamous for just flooding online servers. Hell, in the community-run servers that are running right now, you can't go a single race without seeing a Daisy or a Funky somewhere. This is because these guys happen to have the best stats in the game, so the competitive guys took note of this and basically pulled a Brawl Meta Knight. To add insult to injury, Mario Kart Wii introduced bikes to the scene, and they were incredibly unbalanced. If you played online and didn't drive an inside drifting bike, you were as good as last. In addition, this is pretty much the first Mario Kart game to have stands. Not that stand. A stan is defined as an over-obsessive or defensive fan of a person or thing. Mario Kart 64 is also kind of like this, but with Wii, especially nowadays, the stands have never been more prominent. To conclude this section, wow, that was a hot mess of competitiveness and Funky Kong. Thankfully, no other game has ever had this kind of fan base. Mario Kart 7 was Mario Kart 7, and Mario Kart 8 was way more of a balanced game to have a following like that. Mario Kart 8 actually got some DLC and added some more tracks and characters, but that didn't really affect the status of the fan base. And then, nothing.
Absolutely nothing. You will never, ever, ever, ever
get Mario Kart content.
Okay, well, we didn't get nothing, because soon Nintendo would announce their hot new system, the Nintendo Switch. A breath of fresh air after the blunder that is the Wii U, though I liked it personally. Take that, haters! With such games announced like Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, and Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart is sure to have a place on the Switch as well. At least that's what we thought. Turns out that we got Mario Kart 8. Again.
It's Mario Kart 8 again!
But wait, this one has an actual battle mode. It introduces some new characters like Dry Bones and the Inklings. Hey look, my autism pack. Aside from that, it's basically the same experience as the Wii U version, along with having its DLC for free.
Same experience? Well, does Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U have smart steering?
So after the release of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we went back to nothing once again. Oh wait, we got free DLC, but it's for Link only, and all it added was his Breath of the Wild outfit and the ancient stuff. Yeah, at this point, the Mario Kart series is starting to become dry of anything substantial. With the chances of a proper next installment being unlikely as time goes on, many would soon grow a bit restless of the dry drought that has been present since the second wave of the Wii U DLC. Although, drought may be an over-exaggeration, because we did get other Mario Kart games, but like, one's for an arcade spin-off that not many people can even get a chance to play, and the other, albeit later, is a neat novelty at most, but otherwise extremely forgettable and expensive as hell. Be honest, you probably forgot that Mario Kart Live Home Circuit even existed up until I said it.
And then, the great minds at Nintendo decided to release an original mobile game for the Mario Kart series. That sounds pretty cool. Oh no. Oh. Oh no. Oh no! Yeah, so Mario Kart Tour was their new hit mobile game for the Mario Kart series. A game that I have not played and know jack shit about.
I do. I fucking love Tour. Well, actually not to that extent, but I do know a good amount of the game. Yes, even the controversy surrounding it. So why don't we talk about that now? Even before release, Nintendo had asked for beta testers to test out Mario Kart Tour before it launched later in 2019. Now, even though they specifically asked not to record and share information, come on, what do you think would happen? What came out of this is a pretty identical, yet rough-looking version of the game with some differences. Notably this heart system that would function similarly to other mobile games with a stamina system like Dr. Mario World. Thankfully, the stamina would later be removed, so you'd think it'd be smooth sailing from here, right? Oh, buddy, you're more than wrong. Welcome to fucking hell! Upon release, Mario Kart Tour was heavily criticized for a lot of reasons. Reasons such as fake multiplayer. Yeah, see that name over there? That might be a real person, but it could also be a bot. I mean, hell, they didn't have actual online at launch. You know, because you play Mario Kart for single player, obviously. The controls were very off-putting no matter the options you had. I mean, like, this controls like... how do I describe it actually? The game only being in portrait mode. Yep. What's landscape? Doesn't exist. Certain characters missing, which includes Luigi. You know, the Mario brother Luigi. But most infamously of all, the game was littered with microtransactions and loot boxes. Because, you know, why try to unlock Pauline when you can gamble your rubies for a chance to get her, only to get Baby Rosalina for the 275th time? You can't even play as Mario when you start the game, although that's more of a nitpick, and a bit humorous. But still, regardless, Mario Kart Tour has set itself up as one of the most controversial games in the series, to where it's often considered as the worst Mario Kart game. Yes, even worse to games like Super or Super Circuit.
Hey, shut up. Super Circuit was good.
Don't worry, I know your pain. They just fucking suck at the game, I'm gonna be honest. Despite its horrible first impressions, Nintendo would eventually attempt to resolve these issues as time went on for the game, from landscape mode being added to the eventual removal of the gacha pipe. But even still, it left a bad taste in people's mouths, even after the fact. Mario Kart Tour also faced other issues with its gameplay structure, in the sense that it focuses more on points than getting to first place, though this is subjective and your mileage may vary. Except the controls. The controls are really fucking weird. I understand that it's kind of hard to play Mario Kart with an actual, like, phone control scheme. Trust me, having Delta and getting to play Mario Kart DS was not easy. My fingers were cramped. But Tour just feels so weird that I can't even properly describe how it feels. I would say to go check it out yourself, but come on, let's be honest, you're not going to pick up this game. Another aspect that Mario Kart Tour has some issues with relates to its courses, specifically its nitros. I could talk about the retro tracks and how much they bastardized Airship Fortress or Sky Garden, but that's not the focus here. Besides, I already covered that topic twice. To give a quick rundown, the city tracks have gotten quite a mixed reception from fans that play Tour, specifically how the tracks seem to focus more on the tourism aspect instead of track design, often leading to sections where it feels almost similar, or it just leaves a boring feeling, such as the straightaway in Los Angeles Laps 1, and this is by far not the only one that has this kind of problem. The original non-city tracks didn't face this issue, but it's not to say that they don't have their fair share, such as more simpler layouts and well, actually, no, that's just about it. Come on, Mary Mountain, can you at least be a bit more ambitious? But with these tracks specifically, these were more well received, probably because they're based more on the Marioverse instead of real life. I mean, be honest here, would you rather have a track based on something like Bogley Woods, New Donk City, or the Last Resort Hotel, or would you rather have a track that's based on Florida? But I mean, none of this really matters, since neither the cities nor the original or retro tracks would ever come back after being introduced in Tour.
Are you sure about that?
The year is 2022, the year that, in the February Nintendo Direct of that time, Nintendo finally decides to break the ice of Mario Kart. It's fresh, it's new, it's DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, DLC. Wait, the DLC? What? What is this?
Okay, so this was like a really big deal. After 5 years of nothing but spin-offs and a contentious mobile game, we get actual news for a console Mario Kart. It's no Mario Kart 9, but we've been playing the same damn Mario Kart for so long now, I think people would take what they could get. And what they got was DLC of extra tracks added to the game. 48 to be exact. So not only are we getting new tracks added to the game, but you're adding enough to double the current roster? Jeez, Nintendo, consider me spoiled. Well, maybe not entirely spoiled. All we're getting are remastered tracks from past Mario Kart games. Wow, look at that lineup of games, isn't that so cool? What is Mario Kart Tour doing there? Wait, Paris Promenade? Tokyo Blur? They're adding the original tracks from Tour?
Wait, this game is also part of the rest here. Is this like a mainline Mario Kart? Okay, move on.
Okay, that's a weird decision. At least we still have the actual Mario Kart courses they're bringing back that look way worse from how the base game looks, and looks a hell of a lot like the models used in Mario Kart Tour.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, so the dirty secret about this DLC is that none of the tracks included have the qualities from the base game. It's not like they were just straight up ports, but you can definitely tell that none of the tracks shown lives up to the standards that the original game had. Some fans held copium and hoped that by Wave 1's release, the visuals would be touched up. It didn't.
General fan reception around the announcement was mixed, to say the least. The visuals were obviously a big talking point because they look like shit, but the track choices shown also caused a little bit of a stir. Like, yeah, the obvious Peak Circuit, but the remake of Sky Garden, while a fan favorite track, didn't sit right with a lot of people because, well, it just looks like an orange version of the Tour version.
A version of the track that looks nothing like the original, might I add? I mean, look at how they've massacred my boy. Fucking bouncy leaves. Sorry. My enthusiasm for Sky Guardian perks out every now and then.
And this certainly didn't get any better when the thing released. New issues arrived when people actually got to play the tracks for themselves. I'm sure we've all heard at least one bad thing or two about Coconut Mall and how it's infinitely inferior to the original. Insert cars that don't move. Not to mention, the addition of the city tracks from Tour did not help things in the slightest. With Mario Kart Tour already being a controversial game, the addition of these tracks definitely set a few people off.
But hey, there's one thing about the two city tracks that makes things a little more interesting. And even more divisive. Are you fucking kidding me? See, in Tour, the city tracks were split into 3 routes. Sometimes 4, but that's not important here. And obviously, Nintendo isn't going to put London Loop 3 instead of London Loop 2. So to fix this, they have it set to where for every lap, the routes suddenly change, leading players to different sections of the racetrack. It all sounds interesting enough, and some even like the concept. However, it isn't without its flaws, and one of the major ones is that it leaves players confused as to what direction they should take next, despite Nintendo putting in arrows to point towards the next direction, which might I add is also kind of jarring to look at. The map does suffer a bit from this as well, which doesn't seem bad at a glance, but later tour tracks can get a bit too messy. Looking at you, Romavanti.
Speculation was also starting to rise now that we had 40 more tracks on the way. By early Wave 1, it was basically an anything goes sort of thing in terms of predictions. Seriously, go watch Nathaniel Bandy's BCP prediction, it's wild. Then a couple months pass and Wave 2 gets announced. Holy shit guys, Waluigi Pinball! By the time the second wave came out, that's when the pattern became apparent.
The pattern in question relates to this graph. Something that we haven't mentioned yet so far is that when Wave 1 released, data miners found some of the prefixes for future tracks that would come in later waves. Some of these tracks don't have prefixes, and were concluded with the fact that these could either be placeholders or original tracks. In this instance, Wave 2's prefix seemed to be very accurate to what we ended up with in the final product. Of course, it should be noted that even though we had an idea on what game these tracks came from, it wasn't a full guarantee. For all we know, the N64 track could end up being Frappe Snowland or Cubitruba Beach instead of Calamari Desert, and so on and so forth. As for the anything goes speculation, that one would quickly fall apart as not only did we have a general idea of what the track selection would look like for every wave after, but it was quickly determined that any track from Mario Kart Tour is more likely to show up than a track that didn't. Sorry Brad, but Toad's Factory isn't a likely option for this.
I just can't win.
Listen, look, It's better to accept it than to just hang on to that. I gave up on Mushroom City a long time ago. With the prefix leak proving to be credible and the anything goes speculation being abandoned, it seemed like we knew Nintendo's cards. But little did we know that by knowledge of the prefix leak, it would cause a series of events that would impact both the Booster Course Pass and the Mario Kart community as a whole. For better or for worse. Probably the latter.
In terms of general discussion, people were still very mixed on how this whole Booster Course Pass shtick was going to turn out. You had the positive people, the negative criticizers, the constructive criticizers, and the skeptical. All of this mixedness mostly came down to Nintendo's ever so genius track choices for the DLC. I am being half sarcastic when I say that. So waves 1 through 2 gave us a, well, not strong start, I'd say. On the one hand, despite how divisive they are, the tour tracks showed us some potential as to what they can do with the lap changing mechanics. And we got some pretty big hits like Ninja Hideaway and Waluigi Pinball, unless you're one of those people. On the other hand, why did you add SNES Mario Circuit 3? Wave 3 was considered to be a spark of hope for the Booster Course Pass, even though I'd beg to differ, but whatever. It mostly had to do with the reveal of 3DS Rainbow Road coming to the Wave. Wow, so soon?
There goes the Spiny Cup having all rainbow roads. Not like it matters considering GameCubes, DS's, and GBAs aren't in Tour. Oh yeah, the predictions now mostly consist of tracks that appeared in Tour since they're more likely to be added. Can you guess why? Unless, you know, you're coping for Delfino Square or Woohoo Loop.
Wave 4 was really when the BCP hit its peak in terms of fan reception. Like seriously, people just decided to leave any and all hatred for this DLC behind when this puppy came out.
I mean, how can it not? The tracks legend had DK Summit, Waluigi Stadium. I mean, hell, Singapore Speedway quickly became a fan favorite when they dropped. And especially Yoshi's Island. Oh my god, look at this track. It's so fucking majestic. I'm sorry. Not to mention, this is the first wave to introduce new characters, something that wasn't advertised, but hey, at least we're getting more than just courses, even though I'm not too partial for Birdo, but you know, whatever. I can't wait to see what others still include. Wait, DS Mario Circuit?
No, my beloved Airship Fortress! Okay, so maybe Wave 4 wasn't perfect, but with the stuff it brought to the table, it gained people's trust in Booster Course Pass. And then Wave 5 came out and everything turned to shit.
Where is the sunset?
Oh god.
Where is it?
I don't know. I swear I don't know, please.
Let me be clear and say that the whole discussion or reaction to Wave 5 is, well, divisive wouldn't begin to describe it. Things like Vancouver Velocity not living up to the fan favorite status as it once had, Koopa Kick continuing to get worse since the tube removal of 7, and of course, the big talking point.
Tell me where it is, or else I'll make you like Paige Gurdon!
Let me go, I have a family.
Dude, can you shut up? Anyways, you want to talk about Sunset Wilds, Mr. the Fish?
Ow, my back. Yeah, so Sunset Wilds, a fairly beloved GBA track, came to the Booster Course Pass, and yeah, I'm sure you've all heard it. The defining track feature, the setting sun across the progressing laps, is missing. Not to mention the layout also got dumbed down, but that mostly applies to every remade GBA track. Except Peach Circuit for some reason, Super Nintendo World looking ass. Did this revelation ever cause chaos in the community? Right after Nintendo gained everyone's trust with Wave 4, Wave 5 comes out and stabs them in the back with a sunset-shaped spear. The pure fact that Nintendo decided to add a track that they can't support the main gimmick to because, I don't know, dynamic lighting reasons, made many people uneasy on the whole thing once again, and just kinda gave the wrong idea of Nintendo's sense of quality with these tracks. Or maybe it's the right idea, I don't know.
Wave 5 may be a real mess, but nothing was as messy as with the community's predictions. By Wave 4's passing, the options became a little more limited with things such as the music leak, banner leak, and of course the good old trusty prefix leak. Suddenly, people's predictions, at least in that circle, became almost the same. There are some outliers, either because they want to be different or because they're just kind of coping, but in general, there was a pretty good idea of what's expected to come, assuming Nintendo didn't shift the placements like Stadium over there. This would also be the point where some people started to care about Tour, but not for the game itself. Rather, it's the announcements of retro courses and, more importantly, the nitro courses that people are interested in. After all, if it's in Tour, it might have a chance of getting into DLC. This kind of revelation does get a little annoying, especially in instances where people make such arguments like, this course looks like it was made for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in mind, and this is a lot of effort for a mobile game. By Wave 5, many have come to the breakthrough that they may have quote-unquote solved the booster course pass. Some things are still up for interpretation, but the item boxes are set in stone. The usual city tracks and one or two of the nitros from Tour, DK Mountain being conferred in Mario Kart Tour, and We Remember Road showing up earlier in 2023, it all points to what we can expect in Wave 6. Can't wait to see what this has in store. I'm looking forward for that Piranha Plant Pipeline remake, Nintendo.
Daisy Circuit? Dude, of all tracks, why this?
Oh, come on, it's a good circuit.
Well, sure, but like this is just way too late into the booster course pass. Wasn't this one of the easier tracks? Is that fucking Funky Kong?
Well, it was a Star Cup track. Where do you think they'd put it? Wave 1? No, they want to put it. Is that Peachette?
So, after all we've been through, the highs, the lows, the drama, the Sunset Wilds, what do we end off with? Probably the most hectic wave we have ever seen so far. Okay, so the very first track revealed for the wave, which also happens to be the massive fucking elephant in the room, Daisy Circuit. What? Daisy fucking Circuit. We already knew damn well that Wii Rainbow Road was gonna be the last track, so why did we need two Wii tracks in the same wave? Twice! Even if they really insisted on having a second Wii track, why not pick something like Dry Dry Ruins? That was actually a special cup track and got remade in Tour, but no! Daisy Circuit, why the hell not?
Okay, so that was an odd inclusion, and I'm the guy that actually likes Daisy Circuit, but there's like other tracks in Wave 6 too, and they're what we expected. Except for Ice Roll, but you know, more on that later. For now, I want to gravitate a little on DK Mountain because its perception before and after showing up in 8 Deluxe is interesting. So, the track was already a high contender for appearing in the Booster Course Pass, in part due to it both being a fan favorite and appearing in Mario Kart Tour. However, on that topic, the version in Tour wasn't exactly praised as much, and it's mainly due to how off it feels in Tour. No shocker, right? I mean, Tour doesn't have the best controls, but like, DK Mountain felt extremely off than usual, and at times pretty frustrating. With how janky it feels in that game, some felt like DK Mountain was actually meant to be an 8 Deluxe, assuming it would play better there. I mean, kinda. It wasn't bad, but it didn't feel right either. I just found that perception really interesting altogether, even if the result we got turned out to be okay at best. Focusing a little on what I said before, there is actually a potential third reason for DK Mountain's popularity, but I'll save that for later. Part 2.
Whatever, Dino Jungle was better anyways. So Piranha Plant Cove came out, not to be confused with Piranha Plant Pipeline, which is not to be confused with Piranha Plant Slide, or alternatively, Piranha Plant Pipeway. This track is notable for being the only non-city tour track to have the lap changing mechanic, and it was just as divisive as ever. Like seriously, I've only ever seen people love or hate this track, and there was no in between. At least this is as close as we're getting to Gringill Circuit. Oh yeah, on the topic of Piranha Plant Pipeline, I'm personally excited to finally see it in action. Wait, where is it? Where's Pipeline? Rosalina's Ice World? Oh no. Don't tell me. This track got in over the track that's only available for certain periods of time on a phone game. Well then what the fuck's the point of preserving your tour tracks if you're just straight up not gonna add one? Not to mention it got replaced by probably one of the most out of left field inclusions in this entire pass. You're not even doing it for the fans at this point, you're just making no damn sense.
But what if there was sense? What if Nintendo secretly knew about what's been going on in the last months? See, there was a bit of a theory regarding some strange occurrences within the Booster Course Pass, because if you look at the prefix again, it's completely different than what we got at the final product. There wasn't an extra Wii track in Wave 5, there were 4 GCN tracks planned, and even an additional tour track in the Acorn Cup, so what gives? Well, the working theory here is that ever since people found out the banner and prefix leak, Nintendo's been aware of what they're trying to do, and seeing how Nintendo usually likes to be a bit unpredictable, they made some smaller or major adjustments to keep fans on their toes. Things like Waluigi Stadium moving to Wave 4 when it was meant to be for Wave 3, Maple Treeway moving way earlier than its intended spot in Wave 6, and in this instance, there being a Wii and 3DS track on that same wave. Of course, this is all just a theory, and Nintendo could have changed their minds about the original plans with or without knowledge of the fans' discoveries, so take this with a grain of salt. But it isn't out of the ordinary. Nintendo sure does like to be unpredictable at times after all.
We could have gotten of course it's a free update. Whatever the case, as a result of Nintendo's unorthodox methods of picking out stages, the track choices for the Booster Course Pass have been quite questionable to say the least. I suppose it was a little bit excusable in the early days, and it certainly got way better in the middle period, but just kinda got worse as it went on, and the discussion around it would follow suit. Even now, after the Booster Course Pass is over, I'm still seeing unhealthily heated discussions regarding the game, with a lot of these discussions just being either ranking comparisons, we'll get to that, or, once again, the track selections.
Yeah, the track selection is, well, if I want to compare it to something...
Oh my goodness!
Okay, it's not as bad as Mr. I Love Mario Party 5 minigames here, but you get what I mean. I get that Nintendo's mostly pulling these courses straight out of Tour, and then polishing them up a bit to make them look pleasing? I don't mind them at all. In fact, some of these courses are great additions. Of course, you have fan favorites like Waluigi Pinballs, 3DS Rainbow Road, Daisy Cruiser, and the aforementioned DK Mountain, to name a few, but there are even some of the lesser tracks that have a moment to shine, such as Riverside Park and Choco Mountain, given how they've been praised already in Tour. But then there's tracks that either leaves you wondering why they were included, or how they got butchered. Tracks like Daisy Circuit and Sunset Wilds. I mean, they could have chosen better tracks from Tour's vast array of retros, Frappe Snowland, GBA Luigi Circuit, Airship Fortress, Dry Dry Ruins, Shy Guy Bazaar, and especially GBA Bowser Castle 4. That track looked like it had the most effort put into it for a mobile title, and it uses the same BC1 base that the first three have in this game. It was so well done that some fans wanted it to be in the Booster Course Pass solely because they felt like it would be a waste to not use it in the DLC and not be stuck on a fucking phone. Also, can I say how some of these games get represented poorly? Like, sure, some of them make sense. I can't imagine Super Mario Kart having more than 2 tracks represented if all of them play like this. At least Bowser Castle 3 compensates for the same old, and Super Circuit having 5 of its tracks is a reasonable amount, even if 2 of these tracks live in infamy. The other 3 have been praised a bit more. Yes, even Snowland to an extent. But then there's games that just, well, I don't know what happened to them. I get that 64 already has plenty of tracks in the base game, but it only having 2 tracks still leaves a lot to be desired, especially if these choices are more or less due to it not having many options to begin with. I mean, are you really gonna prioritize Mario Raceway? Double Dash got the least amount of issues, seeing as 3 of its tracks are fan favorites and consistently good, but it really did not deserve to lose that 4th track. Or maybe it was a blessing, I don't know. And then there's DS and 7. Oh, these 2. The best way I can describe them is that, well, there was really only one good pick out of the 4 presented. I mean, DS does have a bit of leeway, but I'll get there pretty shortly. Focusing on Mario Kart 7 right now, most of the tracks here really consist of a bunch of mediocre selections, 2 of which is divisive, and the other is literally fucking Toad Circuit. The only good choice there is 3DS Rainbow Road, and even then, this track has its own set of problems. Mario Kart DS, as I said before, does have a bit of leeway with its track selection, but it's not like it's any better. Shroom Ridge and Mario Circuit were definitely some of the more odd inclusions, with the former being a mostly forgotten track, and the other sparked some controversy that I'm not going to talk about. Not now anyway. And while Peach Guardians is a perfectly fine addition, it's definitely not a first choice for many, or at least that's the impression I got. Like 7, Waluigi Pinball is really the only solid choice they made for DS, and with no signs of Luigi's Mansion or Airship Fortress, it just feels hollow. Now, you might have noticed I left out 2 games. Mario Kart Tour has the largest course selection, but that one is more of a mandatory thing-ish. So we're not going to focus on that. The other though, can't avoid the inevitable, huh? Take it, fish guy.
Oh boy, it's Mario Kart Wiiing time! So there were 3 GameCube tracks, 4 DS tracks, 4 3DS tracks. Okay, sounds reasonable enough. Mario Kart Wii has 8! So of all the Wii tracks they picked for this thing, what do they pick? They've picked the fan favorites. Of fucking course it's all fan favorites. Well, maybe not these 2, but mostly fan favorites. This damn DLC is being run by a bunch of Wii supremacists. Nintendo is clearly releasing this DLC with the precious Wii fans in mind, because, I don't know, that makes them hip with the kids or something. What do you mean Mario Kart Wii released 16 years ago?
Actually, come to think of it, some of the tracks in the other games also appeared in Wii, like Waluigi Stadium, DK Mountain, Mario Circuit 3.
It was you that caused this track to appear!
All of Nintendo's genius business decisions with the Booster Course Pass lie in Mario Kart Wii, and that's honestly a shame. Personally speaking, Wii still remains my favorite game in the franchise. Yeah, you heard me, I can like the game and not be part of the Mafia. So as the certified Wii fan in the house, fuck this game. You have littered these DLC slots for far too long. Good thing I have those new characters to keep me company. Oh, who are these new characters? Funky Kong! Fucking Funky Kong! The god of Mario Kart Wii himself! If this doesn't speak volumes about where Nintendo's allegiance lies, then I don't know what does. Funnily enough, the Booster Course Pass really ended like how the whole discourse started, with Mario Kart Wii. The grand return, the revenge of Mario Kart Wii, if you will. And with it, we enter our third and current era of the Mario Kart discourse, the Post-BCP Era. November 9th, 2023. The Booster Course Pass is officially over. In terms of people's views on the DLC after everything, say it with me, y'all. People are mixed. Okay, well, it isn't the exact same as before. Shortly after Wave 6 released, I've seen several people say that the DLC overall was worth it, and yeah, I agree, 48 tracks for $25 is a steal. But the actual quality of these tracks, well, I don't want to say it's not there, but it clearly isn't the same as what the base game was going for. It's sort of a quantity over quality sort of thing. Regardless, most fans were happy about at the very least one track that made it into the Booster Course Pass. I mean, there are like a bajillion fan favorites here, there's something for everybody. But that also kind of creates a bit of a divide in the track selection.
Yeah, the thing about the course selection compared to then and now is that it is way bigger than before. Not to mention that the way Nintendo went about adding these tracks into the Booster Course Pass was to prioritize fan favorites. At least in Wii's case, but you know, that may not sound that bad, and it isn't on paper. But after the Booster Course Pass ended and 96 track rankings were the hot new trend, opinions on what tracks are the best or worst clashed, and it leads to either some of the most tame or insane hot takes imaginable.
And we're not trying to say that having hot takes in general is a bad thing. I mean, I'm literally guilty of it myself. But it goes a little deeper than that.
Certain takes just kind of became the norm, even before the Booster Course Pass, and for the sake of not being a complete ass, I won't name any individuals for this, but you can find these in a lot of rankings like, oh, Toad Circuit is the worst thing ever made, or 3DS Rainbow Road is the best thing since sliced bread, or Waluigi Pinball is overrated. And if you even slightly deviate from the general opinion, or in some cases, the opinion that some people may have, prepare to be sat down and lectured like a university student because, buddy, you're in for a while. Or, you know, you could just watch it all unfold.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Then your opinion is mid.
And thus begins the comparisons of Mario Kart rankings, or as I like to call it, Civil War. Okay, well maybe that's an over-exaggeration, but it can really feel like it sometimes. I've had my fair share of Mario Kart discussions in the fanbase myself, and let me tell you, it is just a dice roll as to whether or not you're gonna have a respectful conversation. It's like politics, you either respect someone else's ideologies even if you disagree with them, or you could be intolerant and hate their guts for what they believe in and you think they're straight up wrong. Maybe you'd even want them eradicated if you're extreme enough. Now take all of what I just said and apply that to an E for Everyone kart racing series.
Jesus, isn't that a bit much?
Well, I gotta hook the viewer's attention somehow. Back in my Waluigi Pinball video, I said this. You really can't talk about the stage without having to throw hands. It's almost as bad as Paper Mario Discourse. And you do not want to be like Paper Mario Discourse. Oh, was I ever so innocent 5 months ago. Funny how I can unintentionally speak for most of the fanbase when talking about exactly one track. Speaking of YouTube videos, 96 track rankings have been abundant on the platform ever since the end of the Booster Course Pass. I ate these up when these were first coming out, but as I watched more and more of them, the more bored of them I got. And I swear, it's not just from the fatigue of seeing the same concept done over and over again. I feel like most of these videos either devolve into the most boring and predictable list imaginable, or clickbait. I swear, everyone and their mother puts Waluigi Pinball near the bottom like, yeah, that'll show them. And my main issue with these don't even have to do with those kinds of takes. I've consumed so many Mario Kart tier lists at this point where I can't even give two shits about where you place a track. My problem is when these videos are just Mario Kart 8 rankings for the sake of being Mario Kart 8 rankings to hop on the trend and make those big December bucks. When they're done like this, they most usually end up rushed or have a flawed analysis.
Fundamentally flawed, fundamentally flawed, fundamentally flawed, fundamentally flawed, fundamentally flawed, fundamentally flawed.
It's kind of a shame because these types of videos should feel like big accomplishments, but end up being no better than your average content farm video. And no, I'm not saying it's all bad, I'm just saying it's become really stale and it's the only thing I see on Mario Kart YouTube. Could be worse though, don't get me started on r/Mario Kart.
What happens on r/Mario Kart? I don't have read it exactly, so let me just quickly look up.
No.
Alright, so we've covered everything that we needed to talk about in regards to the Mario Kart community as a whole. From the Wii fanbase being a little more like the Melee fanbase, I think, to the whole booster course fiasco, down to now where all we can really do is wait and see if the next Mario Kart game ends up being either Mario Kart X or Nintendo Kart or whatever happens. God, even saying Nintendo Kart feels wrong. Like, we are not materializing Smash Bros. Discussions version 2.
Currently, we're just in this weird state of limbo where the fans are sitting as patiently as they can waiting for the next Mario Kart game as discussions about the BCP simmers down. But the arguments about which tracks or games or characters or karts or monkey asses are better than others is still continuing to this very day. Or at least this very day in relation to this video anyway. You could be watching this in 2030 when the aliens invade and destroy Mario Kart. What a bright future.
Really? Aliens? That's super cliche to say. So anyway, here's my epic tier list while you were talking about how the Mario Kart community is hot garbage.
Brother, you serious?
I think we've covered everything we need to hear. I'd just like to thank you, Mr. That One Fucking Fish from Mario Galaxy, for having me here to not only discuss some of the things about this whole mess, but also talking about Mario Kart Tour as, like you said, you've never played it. I've seen through some interesting stuff with the Tour community, which is a whole different can of worms. So again, thanks. And with that all said, I best be going. I'm finally free! Woohoo! Oh, what the fuck is this kind of Splatfest theme? Jesus fucking Christ.
Wow, you couldn't even say goodbye? Anyways, thanks so much for sticking to the end. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, whatever other things the YouTubers tell you to do, and most importantly, remember that Stu cares about you.
You're not sleeping my thunder, Fitch.
If you're going to kill me, tell Tosimbo to stay away from my funeral.